Friends, welcome back to the Brave New Wear Show. My name's Christian. Recently, I fell into a YouTube hole, and I discovered this guy, Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful. I've never watched Shark Tank. I know Mark Rubin is on it, and the rest of the sharks.
That tactic not only backfired, it triggered a cascade of dragon doubt.
The problem with you is you're not alive, but you're not dead.
What the hell is going on in this show?
The 30,000 a year have cursed you to keep going on this toil. You get up in the morning hoping that this thing's going to turn into something.
Not true, Kevin.
Because it
Does that guy have tape on his face?
No. Well, if you actually don't listen to what people are trying to tell you,
but the numbers don't lie.
I don't think you listen.
I think the guy's cursed and he's selling a curse? Like a mummy's curse?
You haven't sold any more than
I don't think you
30,000.
tell the
You're
truth
starting
at all.
to get on my nerves.
This guy knows money. But I started watching these videos with Mr. Wonderful in them to find that he's not like your average rich guy. He's actually a human being. He likes to play music, seems to appreciate art and culture, collects watches. You've got my attention, Mr. Wonderful. This recent video came up. Something, investing to become a rich guy by buying the things you love. I love things. So I wanted to see what happens in the video. I need an intro like that.
This week I have to address a question I'm getting thousands of. You talk about saving money and not spending any money, and you have to invest, not just save. But that means you can't buy anything. You're always taking $100 a week, which is what I say you should do, and investing it over the long period. What about living? What about spending on things that you love? What about clothes? What about fashion?
What about fashion?
I want you to have a different mindset when you purchase things for yourself. And let me give it to you in a lesson that I learned from my own mother. My mother, Georgette, was a working girl. She would save 20% of her salary each week and invest it. But it's not all she did with it. That she would save a whole year just to buy one jacket. So when it came to clothing, she loved Chanel jackets. They cost a fortune back then, but they were very high quality and they looked beautiful. And her thinking was they last forever in your wardrobe. Chanel never goes out of style. When she passed away and I became the executor for her estate, I started getting phone calls from all the women in my extended family saying, what happened to Georgette's Chanel jackets? I would like one of them. In fact, I'd like them all. And I began to realize that these jackets were classics. All the women were fighting over them. They all wanted the Chanel jackets. Why? They were worth more today than they were 30 years ago.
He's pitching the idea of buying luxury garments as an investment. I don't disagree with a lot of things he says in this video. And I do want to go into, like, what does that really mean? But taking it on face value, can you buy luxury garments and actually see them appreciate? My gut feeling is no. I don't think buying fashion will appreciate by 8% every year. In fact, based on my own experience of selling clothes and selling clothes for other people, 99% of the time, I resold a luxury garment for less than it was sold for in retail stores. The riot bombers are a rarity. All right, bathroom finance. If you read a modern finance book, like say, I Will Teach You How to Be Rich, Random Walk Through Wall Street, The Millionaire Next Door, the E-Myth, Think Like an Economist. All of these books have a through line that is basically this. If you are going to make an investment, it has to be an investment that you know will appreciate over time with only a little bit of variability. That is typically something like a low index mutual fund. In fact, they kind of insinuate that people who spend a lot of money on luxuries, on luxury things, are typically a lot less likely to accumulate any wealth. With buying clothes and hoping they will appreciate in value, that's a massive risk. It's a gamble, not an investment. Let's say you invest $1,000 every year into high fashion, and from 35 to 65, when people used to retire. And let's say another dude takes $1,000 every year and invests it in like a low index mutual fund with an annual return of 8%, which is like the average. After 30 years, the fashion guy would have spent $30,000 on luxury garments. The other dude who invested $30,000, his portfolio is now worth something like $114,000 and change. Do Do you think that with the luxury garments that you bought over 30 years that you spent around $30,000, do you think you can beat that $114,000 mark? Do you think that you have purchased maybe 2 Riot Bombers? Go think of your favorite brand. Look at what the retail prices are on their website, and then look at eBay and Grailed. See how many items you can find that have like a price premium, i.e. how many have increased in value on the resale market. I bet you're not going to find a lot. Some brands do hold value well because they are coveted or because they are just generally limited and expensive. What about StockX? That is basically trying to take clothing and make it commodities. Does it pan out? Can we pull anything from there? I don't think so. I mean, for one, there isn't a lot of data to look at. For two, StockX doesn't have a lot of actual garments to look at. It's only streetwear. And if we're paying attention to what Mr. Wonderful was arguing, this idea of building a wardrobe through luxury pieces.
In Georgette's mind was, it really is who you are. You're presenting yourself to the world and you want to look good. You want to feel good about yourself.
Streetwear, a lot of it is garish. A lot of it people will grow out of. And there isn't, like, I couldn't find one garment on StockX that is like, this is appreciating and will continue to appreciate. There's fluctuation. If we're talking about watches, jewelry, or like bags, accessories like that, I think that's a different ballgame. I think shoes and bags actually have a better chance of appreciating because of the nature of those accessories. Is there an equivalency to the Chanel tweed jacket? A Chanel tweed jacket has, for decades, been kind of an iconic piece. And I know from experience that reselling those tweed blazers, they would typically move and they would typically still hold a lot of value. But is there an equivalent from another designer? Perhaps like Yohji Yamamoto and his blazers, just because that really is an identification of his style, and I could see somebody identifying their like wardrobe through that specific piece. Number two, just buying hype because you think that these hyped pieces will probably be remembered, maybe would work, but it's not a great way to build a wardrobe. Number three opportunity, invest in a designer you love. This probably holds the most water. In essence, we can think of designers as artists. We can imagine, or we can like really appreciate their vision and their aesthetic and stick with that for decades. And that isn't necessarily a bad move. At the end of, when you're 65, I guess, you will have a very interesting wardrobe built from that one designer. And if we're thinking about designers like Rick, where it's kind of like a lifestyle brand, I imagine there will be a lot of pieces in there that will have a value by the end of your collection. Well, what about like David Cassavant? He's a businessman. Buying garments is for his business. Those aren't just garments he's wearing. Let me come back to the end. What I think Mr. Wonderful's main point is in this video. He wants to make the point that to be fiscally responsible, you don't have to necessarily avoid the luxuries of life.
You don't have to be Spartan. You don't have to starve yourself from the joys of life.
Rather, there is a lot of value in actually caring about what you look like or taking a lot of consideration in what kind of clothes you put on your body and what kind of image you put out in the world.
Buy less stuff, but buy good stuff that means something to you.
Instead, being more conscious about how you buy clothes and favoring those pieces that are more meaningful, more expensive, will result in you being more savvy in terms of how you spend your money. Wow. It will result in you collecting garments that could very well still have some value. If you are being fiscally responsible, the amount of money that you spend on clothes, on your wardrobe, should only be a fraction of how you put money away. No. That is the ultimate goal. It should be like a long list of different things that you would be buying as assets. And this is a lesson that I've talked about before. It's a lesson that I really believe in, buying better things instead of a lot of garbage. But it's a lesson that I fail to live up to half the time. I think in part because being that responsible with money is not something I've excelled at. I've got that one patchwork jacket that I called like a fake Bodhi jacket. I would love to get a real boaty jacket. If I saved $100 every month, that would put me in the range of buying one. It wouldn't be absurd. It's a piece that I think I really like. Let me know in the comments down below, what would be your piece that you would save up for a year to buy? How much money are you gonna save? And why do you think it's the investment piece that you want? This is about being meticulous in terms of your money and investing in you, in your image, in your identity, in the thing that you express to everyone else.